Hello boys and girls, welcome to Mrs. Bandu's Math Movies. This is for Course 2, 4th period, Lesson 3-4, Multiplying Fractions and Mixed Numbers. To multiply, our objective here is to multiply fractions and to solve problems by multiplying mixed numbers. Okay, so basically when we multiply fractions, and it makes our life, compared to adding and subtracting, there's, in some ways, it's a little less work. In other ways, sometimes maybe it's the work is a little bit different. But one thing you want to remind yourself of is that you do not need a common denominator. So you might even just jot a note here, no common denominator needed. Now if you have one, fine, but there's no need to find one. Okay? So let's just look at what happens here when we multiply fractions. So we multiply 1/3 times 1/2 by multiplying the numerators, 1 times 1, and multiplying the denominators, 3 times 2. 1 times 1 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. So 1/3 times 1/2 is 1/6. That basically, algebraically speaking, A times C gives me AC, whatever that answer is, over B times D, BD. B and D cannot be 0 because, remember, this bar means division and we cannot divide by 0. I don't think we'll have that problem at the moment, but it is something to know, and that's why it says that it cannot be 0. Okay, so let's look at some examples. We have 3/5 times 5/6. So multiply the numerators, 3 times 5 and 5 times 6. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 6 is 30. So we find the two products and then we simplify. In this case, we can divide by a common factor of 15. Or you could divide by 2 and then, not 2, but by 5 and then by 3 or whatever. In the end, you simplify down to 1/2. Goodness. You can tell I have probably done a little bit of filming today because I'm saying the wrong numbers. I have my apologies. I'm actually going to show you something that's going to show up in a couple of other problems as well, but something that is kind of a nice little trick called cross-canceling. And what that means is that we can look for common factors between the numbers that we could connect with the crosses there. Okay, so 5 and 5 have the common factor of 5. So in my head, I think 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. 3 and 6 have a common factor of 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now I use my new numbers. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. And I find that my answer very oftentimes is already going to be simplified for me because what I've done is I've simplified within the problem. And again, this is something that we'll practice using in class, but this one was actually a really nice example even though it didn't originally show it here. It's nice to use right here. So I've used some cross-canceling there. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to our next section, or our next question, and it actually does show you some of that here as well. Ebony biked 12 miles on Saturday, and Kate biked 2/3 of Ebony's distance. Now, when we're dealing with fractions, the word of is going to mean times. Okay, so how far did Kate bike? So we want to find 2/3 of 12 miles, or 2/3 times 12. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to, first of all, write 12 as 12 over 1. Write it as a fraction. Here is where they're simplifying or cross-canceling, as I showed you on the other one. Okay, so I look at the 2 and the 1, no common factors other than 1. But 3 and 12 have a common factor of 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay, so you have to do that in your head or have to use your multiplication charts perhaps to help you do that. Okay, so now I use my new numbers, cross those out. 2 times 4, and I'm going to write this over here, and then 1 times 1. So 2 times 4 is 8, 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, simplify. 8 over 1 simplifies to 8. So Kate biked 8 miles. Okay, what the cross-canceling or the simplifying does is that it keeps your numbers smaller and easier to work with along the way. Okay, let's look at multiplying mixed numbers. Now, when you go to multiply mixed numbers, the first thing we're going to do is, let's do a quick estimate here. 5 1/2 is about 6. 3 1/3 is about 3. 6 times 3 is 18. So our estimate tells us that we should get an answer somewhere around 18. Our first step is to write the mixed numbers as improper fractions. So here I have 5 1/2. Remember the little thing we said in class, bottom times big. So 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So that gives me 11 halves. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, gives me 10 thirds. So I'm doing 11 halves times 10 thirds. Multiply numerators, multiply denominators. And again, we can do some cross-canceling here. They haven't left room to do that, so I won't, but then I'll show you on the side a second time. Okay, so 11 times 10, is 110. Sorry, 110. Sorry about that mess up. So that's 110, and 2 times 3 is 6. So now you can simplify. You can divide by 2 maybe if you want to, and give you 55 over 3. Okay, and at that point 55 over 3 is an improper fraction, so we'll write that as a mixed number. 55 divided by 3. 3 times 1 is 3. Subtract. You have 2 left over. Bring down the 5. 3 times 8 is 24. You have 1 left over, so you make a fraction with that. So it's 18 and, 1/3. So 18 and 1/3 is very close to the estimate of 18. So the answer is reasonable. Okay. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to show you what you could have done to simplify just a little bit. But in this case, it would have been helpful. 11 and 3 are both prime. 2 and 10 have a common factor of 2. So 2 divided by 2, I'm going to mark out the 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. What happens here is I immediately get the 55 over 33 that I have here. So again, it's just kind of, when do you want to do it? I recommend that you're going to want to do that as much as you can, because it's going to keep your numbers smaller and easier to work with. Okay, if you will complete the quick checks, there's a couple on this page and one on the previous page. Have those ready for discussion in class. Bring in any questions about things that you had trouble with or things that you did not understand, and we will go over them. I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye now.